What up, Doe? The United States of America in 1812. This is a map of the United States of America in 1812. Take into consideration that maps are drawn by men. The lines on the map, listen, if you're in Georgia and you go to Alabama, there won't be a line in the soil that separates Georgia from Alabama. The only lines are on paper matter. Just for context, these are lines on a map. These are lines on paper. The United States of America in 1812. The green portion is what is considered the United States of America in 1812. We have Maine, we have Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Delaware, Washington, D.C., Ohio, Kentucky, North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and then we have Louisiana. The yellow portion is said to be disputed land. The white portion is said to be United States of America territory. This map, the way it printed out, it sucks. So, on my original paper matter document, it says other countries, and Florida is included in the other countries. Florida and all the way to Pensacola, and it has the British North America, Canada are said to be other countries. So the states were perhaps other countries. The states were countries, so to speak. They were their own places. Now, when we say countries and states, or countries and estates, keep in mind that these are others labeling things. Because as you know, you were labeled many things. Were any of those things that you were labeled correct? So, just for context, for the American Indians or the Americans, just for context, for the people who are the American Indians but falsely labeled Black Americans or African Americans, the ones who don't have culture, this is just context for what the United States of America was in 1812. Now, we see Kentucky right here. And in 1812, this is considered the United States. I know where my family were in 1812. Rockfield, Warren County, Kentucky, Georgia, Jones County, Kentucky. This over here that says the Mississippi or Mississippi Territory, which is Mississippi and Alabama. Large amounts of my family were in Alabama during this time. Again, this is just for context. Because when we read things and we're told things about the United States of America, we have to realize that America is the soil. The United States is a separate thing. Okay? War of 1812. Facts. Share to Google Classroom. The War of 1812 is one of the least studied wars in American history. The War of 1812 was the first large-scale test of the American Republic on the world stage. With the British Navy impressing American sailors and the British government aiding Native American tribes in their attacks on American citizens on the frontier, Congress, for the first time in our nation's history, declared war on a foreign nation, Great Britain. Now, let's go through this because we have to clear up some things. The War of 1812 is one of the least studied wars in American history. Okay. The War of 1812 was the first large-scale test of the American Republic on the world stage. Let's just clear that up and say the United States Republic on the world stage, with the British Navy impressing American sailors and the British government aiding Native American tribes in their attacks on American citizens on the frontier. The British Navy impressing American soldiers and the British government aiding Native Americans. First of all, there's no such thing as Native Americans during this time. These are American Indians. These are your ancestors. These are your second, third, fourth great grandparents and all the cousins and uncles and aunties and extended family and the like. Because in 1812, that was like yesterday. So the British Navy impressing American sailors, a lot of times what is used is American, and it is being used synonymously with foreigners. Because when the foreigners came here, just like when the foreigners come here today, they put a hyphen behind their nation and attach American behind the hyphen. So, for instance, Chinese, Japanese, German, Italian, Congolese. When these people come here, they go from being whatever nation they are to German American, Chinese American, Congolese American, Nigerian American, Romanian American, which is false. Because what does that do to the American? The true, original American, the natural American. The War of 1812 began on June 18th, 1812 with the United States. See, this is the proper language that should be spoken. With the United States formally declaring war on the United Kingdom. The United States is formally declaring war on the United Kingdom on American soil. Let that sink in. Let it sink in. We have foreigners boxing on our soil. The war lasted from June 1812 to February 1815. The British were also unsubtly supporting Native American groups who were in conflict with American settlers along the frontier. Let's go over this. The British were also unsubtly supporting American Indians who were in conflict with foreigners, with foreign settlers along the frontier. But it says Native American groups were in conflict with American settlers. These were not Americans. These were foreigners from the soil portion that is termed Afro-Eurasia, Europe, Asia, and Africa. You figure it out. The British were also unsubtly supporting Native Americans. There was no such thing as a Native American in 1812. American Indian groups who were in conflict with foreigners settling on their soil. This is the map as well. It's a much better version of the map. But nonetheless, we went over the map already. The War of 1812 was fought in the United States, Canada, and remember what the United States were in 1812. Remember what we went over. If not, if you don't remember, rewind. The War of 1812 was fought in the United States, Canada, and on the high seas. Engagements were fought in Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, and Mississippi, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Canada, coastal Maine, and the Chesapeake. Native Americans played a major role in the War of 1812, or properly. See, Native Americans is what's the common narrative. Native Americans are what's accepted. Native Americans are what contributes to the hijack. Native Americans are Chinos, Siberians, Romans, Anglo-Saxons. But what we're talking about here are American Indians played a major role in the War of 1812. Of course, without the American Indian, none of these things would come to pass. Native Americans played a major role in the War of 1812. Tribes were aligned with both sides of the conflict, although predominantly tribes allied themselves with the British against the United States, all foreigners. Famous Native Americans, famous American Indians included Tecumseh, a Shawnee leader who organized the Confederation of Native Americans, who organized a confederation of American Indian tribes known as Tecumseh's Confederacy to resist ongoing encroachment on their lands by European settlers, aka foreigners. Let's take a look. African Americans were not officially allowed to join the U.S. Army during the War of 1812, although they served extensively in the U.S. Navy. Approximately 1/4 of the U.S. sailors at the Battle of Lake Erie were African American. Roughly 350 men of the Battalion of Free Men of Color fought at the Battle of New Orleans. African Americans wasn't something that masses of American Indian people were calling themselves in 1812. So you figure it out. I'm not going to go too extensively into this because I don't have my vomit bucket next to me. And I don't want all of you to vomica. African Americans, properly American Indians, were not officially allowed to join the U.S. Army during the War of 1812, although they served extensively in the U.S. Navy. Approximately 1/4 of the U.S. sailors at the Battle of Lake Erie were American Indians. Roughly 350 men of the Battalion of American Indians fought at the Battle of New Orleans. The Battle of York, April 27th, 1813. American forces burned York, the capital of Upper Canada, after winning a hard-fought land battle. William Henry Harrison crushed a combined force of British and American Indians in this battle, killing the Shawnee leader Tecumseh, and thus removing the most dangerous threat to foreigners in the Northwest. Andrew Jackson defeated the Red Sticks Creeks and then forced the tribe to cede their claim to 23 million acres of what is now Alabama and Georgia. Where your people were, where my people were, where they still are. After burning Washington, D.C., British forces advanced on Baltimore. Stubborn resistance at North Point and Fort McHenry saved the city, compelled the British to suspend their campaign, and inspired the American national anthem, or properly inspired the United States national anthem. How could they say American national anthem when we are the Americans? And guess what? We have rhythm. We have people like Howlin' Wolf. Woo, woo, woo. Internationally, the war helped codify a fair standing between the United States, Britain, and Canada. This led to an era of mutually beneficial trade and diplomatic partnership. Domestically, the war exacerbated tensions between northern industrialists and southern planters. Industrialists were reluctant to go to war with Britain. In the early years of the 19th century, the United States was a rapidly expanding commercial power. In other words, the United States was against anything that had to do with nature. This is what I'm getting from this article. What are you getting? The United States was against anything that had to do with nature. The British also lost their American Indian lodgment against United States expansion, further unleashing the growth of a major global trade competitor. Always about trade, always about commerce, always about control. Many Native Americans, properly, many American Indian tribes fought against the United States in the Northwest, united as a confederacy led by a Shawnee man named Tecumseh. Now, just a sidebar. How many of you know someone named Shawnee? How many of you know someone named Shawnee? I do. Do you? Is this a coincidence? The Creek tribe in the Southwest battled settlers. The Creek tribe in the Southwest battled foreigners and soldiers throughout the War of 1812. The Native Americans all lost their main request of a recognized nation in North America. The Black Americans, the African Americans, properly, the American Indians, all lost their main request of a recognized nation in North America. Do the right thing.